It ahead. Matthews, empty net. There it is. There it is. Number 34 has got 50. Move over, leads. Chucky and Squid. Big Pappy's on the board.
Enough funny business.
It's the All-Star break. I think that we could take it easy around All-Star break time.
I didn't even do one of those little talking things at the beginning either, because we're all business today. The Leafs can take a week off. We don't.
I mean, Mitch Marner's not really taking a week off. He's still working. But
we took last week off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just realized that Austin Matthews wasn't at the All-Star game because he's hurt. And I'm just realizing that now because I didn't watch one iota of the All-Star game.
Nope. It's funny how it's just completely off my radar. I was over at my parents and they asked me, "Did you watch it?" And I completely forgot it even happened at that point. Wasn't even aware. But you watch a highlight or so, and that's all you need.
I mean, after the Leafs' last loss against Boston, I was just totally put off from hockey, and it's like, ugh, we have to sit for like a week and a half on that loss. So yes, I wasn't in the mood for the All-Star game. Although Mitch Marner apparently had a good time, just he had 6 assists.
Did he? Did anybody
I'm
listen
sure
to the podcast watch it either?
When teams score 10 goals in a game, 6 assists, is that even impressive at that point? Like, that's just par for the course.
In the All-Star Games defense, I've watched the little 3-on-3. I'm assuming they did the tournament again.
There is no defense in the All-Star game.
Well, truly, I'm not here trying to crap on, like, it's still hockey. Like, hockey's fun. We like hockey. I don't know. It's not for us. I think it's for kids.
Well, the All-Star game's coming to Toronto next year, so you have a year to become fans of the All-Star game.
Yeah, basically. We're going to be there, boots on the ground, covering the All-Star game, pretending to like it.
Show me the sport that has a good All-Star game. Besides the dunk contest. But I think people have an issue with that. We don't need to get into this. I said we were all business
Leafs talk
today.
only. Leafs talk only.
We were all business today. I have buttons on my shirt to show you how business we are today.
All right, let's get into it.
Leafs haven't played in a few days, and we're on the bye week. So the Leafs don't play again till Friday. And what? Are we officially in the last third of the season, would you say? We've got about 30 games to go.
I think we're half.
Just over halfway, somewhere between halfway and a third left. Yeah, we're definitely a healthy chunk into the season.
And so we put Ryan Allison to work about time on this All-Star break to come up with a couple of report cards on how he feels like the Leafs have done this season. And Tim and I are going to
tell me I'm wrong. Yes, I'm aware of what your guys' role is on this podcast. No, it's just I feel like we've gone through quite a bit of the season here. We have a healthy sample size on a lot of these guys, and it's just good to take a bit of stock, take a look back and see. Well, we obviously know how we're doing in the league. We're like second in the division as always. We're something like third or fourth in the league or something like that. But let's look at this Leafs team on more of a minute scale and see how each player's doing, player by player, and give them a letter grade here. That's what we're doing here.
Well, let's get into it, baby.
All
School's
right,
out.
so
report cards are in.
There you go.
Mid-season report cards.
That always terrified me when report cards came home.
I'm going to go through
a wake-up
them.
call for some of these players. They'll say, you're failing. If you don't turn it around, you're going to be repeating next year with the Marlies.
Or with Lou Lamoriello and Bo Horvat. Yikes.
And Slim Allen Barb would come up to me and say, Steve, we're going to start doing your homework with you every night now. That's what they would say after report cards went home.
All right. I wish I was Joe Bowen so I could say, would you guys stop talking? We are going to go through this from lowest to highest. We're going to start off with the negatives, but we'll end on a positive. Don't worry. And I'm going to give you its list of letter D through, I added an S above A for super, I think is what the S stands for. So S is the highest. We're going to start at D. As I go through the players, if you think that, hey, there was a player I think should have been that tier, save it. We'll talk about that player when I get to them in my list. But in your first batch, rated D, the worst of the worst, the
so
real
this is
bums.
there's no Fs. You didn't fail a single player this year.
Well, no, I didn't go down to. I guess you could call D and F if you wanted to. It's the lowest grade. It's
Well, I
what
mean,
I'm gonna do.
as someone who's gotten plenty of Fs and plenty of Ds, there's a difference. Anyway,
All right, you know what? Fine, I'll rejig my list and add an F. There is a single player who's in the F tier, and that is Wayne Simmons. Wayne
whoa,
Simmons is in my F tier. Guy is just useless on the bench. I'm sure he's useful off the bench, but we don't get to see that. And all I see him is he gets put into the games against Boston, and we lose those games. So F for Wayne Simmons.
I concur. That's
yeah.
boring.
I wonder. Is this a bit on Kyle Dubas though? Right, Kyle Dubas signed with that 2-year extension. We all were kind of like, what? It's like, how many teams do you think Wayne Simmons would be an every night player on in the league? Good.
Well, clearly none, since they all waived him.
I-
And
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
true.
I mean, say the fact that he did pass through waivers, I think I give a pass to Kyle Dubas as far as the contract goes, because like if they want to pay him $900,000 to play in the Marlies and be in the locker room, like that's fine. But it's like I just don't know who we should point the finger to. Like, is it Sheldon Keefe that wants him in the lineup? And so like
I would
like
point
is
it more
that
at Sheldon Keefe. Yeah, like I remember when the 2 years was signed, I was trying to tell you bozos, like, guys, it doesn't matter. He makes less than league min. We could put him in the minors. There's no risk here. But the risk is that you have Sheldon Keefe, who's like, hey, I want this guy in the lineup for a most important games ever, even though he's not good enough to play in all the others. It makes no sense, and all we do is lose those games, and our fourth line is useless out there. So
well,
I put it more
I
on
mean,
Sheldon Keefe.
it reminds me of Mike Babcock. Like Kyle
Yeah,
Dubas had
Yeah.
to take away his toys.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
no, you can't be trusted.
Except Kyle Dubas gave him, but apparently, I don't know. Apparently, he's popular in the locker room and he means something to the team and all those nonsense intangibles. But I'll give him an F because I don't like what I see out of him. So
No,
here's your first grade.
I'll concur. That's an F.
All right, the next grade, which was supposed to be the entirety of D tier, but now this is just normal D tier. We have Alexander Kerfoot and Nick Robertson in the D tier. Now, Nick Robertson was a bit of a tricky one. By the way, I cut it off at 12 games. You had to play at least 12 games to get graded by myself. Nick Robertson did meet that threshold. And the reason why I graded him so poorly was twofold. A, this was the year that he was supposed to be here. You know, the arrival of Nick Robertson. We had room for him. There's no one blocking spots. We have lots of spots. And even when he was healthy, he was still like not really making it on the second line. Kind of effective some nights. Like obviously there's that game against Dallas and his brother, which was amazing. But then other than that night, there was no other night where he really looks like he earned a spot or seized the moment. And now yet again, he's injured for the rest of the season. Not entirely his fault, but when he it just keeps happening, it's like you gotta change the way you play or something because it's not working for you. And I look at him like he's a bust right now, so I give him a D.
Wow. I would say I think that's pretty harsh. The kid is still young. Did he like is he a top 6 on the top 2 team in the NHL? No. But I feel like that's an unfair
I'm not
unfair
saying
grade.
hold on, I'm not saying that he's going to be useless forever. I'm saying through this season, this first half of the season, we've seen him in like 20 something games. He's been good in one of them, and he's been injured for the rest.
He
I
had,
don't know.
aside from that one game, really shown nothing in the NHL for the games that he was here when he was healthy. You're totally right. So it's almost tough because like yeah, it really couldn't have gone too much worse for him this year. So I suppose like what Ryan's saying is like Ryan's not going to give you a B just for being an NHL player, right? Which I guess like he is, right? Like he didn't do anything to deserve a higher grade. Um,
I don't
Yeah,
know
I
if
mean,
if he didn't get hurt. I don't know if he'd still be in the lineup right now, or if he would have been sent down to the Marlies for a stint at this point. Like he wasn't doing when he was healthy. It's not like he was deserving to be there. Maybe more so. Like our fourth line is
he was
pretty skim of the barrel as it is. So maybe he did deserve to be in the fourth line, but he wasn't being a difference maker out there.
I would say he was noticeable more nights than not. Like he wasn't putting up the points, but I feel like giving it like a D is to me is like a failed prospect. And like
No, Tim,
granted,
we've established F is Wayne Simmons.
and me in most high school classes.
I don't know. And I mean like I guess maybe we're kind of splitting hairs here as I would say that like he has had a disappointing year even for the injury alone in that like once again he just proves he can't be stay healthy either for his own can't control himself out there, or maybe he keep like he spent time in the gym. What more can you do, right? But it's like so
Part
maybe
of it
it's
is
like
the expectations, right? Like
yeah.
we expect he's been in a pipeline for so long, and this year it just felt like the year he had the opportunity.
Yeah.
He just
The
couldn't
kid's
break
21.
through. I know, I know.
He's a
He's still,
kid.
Austin Matthews,
listen.
I mean, the different player. Austin Matthews had like 2 40-goal seasons before he was 21
Yeah,
years old.
that's true. I don't know.
Guy's a
I
second
think
round
that
pick.
Yeah.
if when Nick Robertson's healthy again next year, I'm still gonna be excited to see his name. If he pulls a miraculous, healing Jesus moment or something, and he gets healthy this season, I'm still gonna be excited to see him come in because we know what he can be. That one game against Dallas, we saw what he could do, and if he could just bring that every night, then he's an ace. He's exactly what we need him to be. It's just the night to night production that's been holding him back. Anyway, the other name was Alex Kerfoot. We've already talked about him at length on this pod of how disappointing he's been this season. He's like a fourth liner at this point, and he's been played on the fourth line. And even when we have injury problems, when Matthews was out, he wasn't the go-to centerman. Like that was his chief value. Was he was kind of the Swiss Army knife, and when a need pops up, he could fill it. Now he's just like
I,
a bottom six winger, being paid three and a
yeah,
half million.
Hmm.
I would say I think that the contract is what makes this the accurate grade. Like $3.5 million. Like he is a useful player out there. Both for his versatility, he can play both center and the wing. He'd be like penalty kill. But I think the fact that repeatedly, even with like injuries, Keefe just doesn't trust him to play more than like the bottom six, if not the fourth line. And just the fact, like the number of plays that have like died on his stick in the offensive zone, mind-boggling. It's brutal. So I think, I mean, he's almost. It'll be interesting to see what his contract he gets next year. Like $3.5 million this year. Does he walk in UFA? Like, is another team gonna pay him more than that? Maybe. That's what they do to all of our UFA.
Well, I wonder. I've been on this Alex Kerfoot B fall season kind of, but like tracking
Yeah.
how Keefe views him because like we haven't mentioned on the pod yet, but Austin Matthews out with an injury for the next 3 weeks, and so earlier, like last week, they throw Pontus Holmberg in as a second line center over Alex Kerfoot, right? Where it was like it felt like
Wow.
if Keefe wasn't thinking, he'd just throw Alex Kerfoot in there.
I mean, the Holmberg experiment did not go
Yep,
well.
so Holmberg gets a
No,
shake,
but
doesn't go well.
that more just shows that we need another center rather than it should have been Kerfoot. Like it didn't go very well when Kerfoot was there either. Like
Yeah,
you think
Kerfoot.
I compare it to when we had Zach Hyman, who is fantastic on our top lines, but when we put him on our third line, I don't think he ever saw the fourth line, but in the bottom six, he would drive those lines and he would look like a player that's just so much better and deserves to be higher in the lineup, but he could drive that line and make it better. Kerfoot in the top six doesn't work. You put Kerfoot in the bottom six and he like plays at the same level as the people he's playing with. And it's not great. I don't know.
No, I don't think he gets the same dollars either. I think enough people in the league watch the Leafs to look at like those 50 and 60 point seasons that he's had in the past and know that like the chance that he was getting, right, like on that wing, and I think just enough people have seen him that I don't think it's going to happen. Be really, really, really curious to see if he actually gets moved out at the deadline for
Yeah.
more cap. I,
Make room.
I think we've been talking about that as a possibility on the podcast for like 2 years now. Don't think it happens often.
It's just because he's that middle class player, right? He's not the like high, $8, $9, $10 million. He's not the low 1 million. He's in the middle where it's like, hey, if you move out this player, we could afford something really fun. And Toronto media loves talking about fun trades.
Well, what's funny is that like people love to criticize the Leafs, as us included, for going like Leafs are different in that they go all in on the top guys and then they fill it with like replacement level players. We don't have hardly any of the middle players that make between that $3 to $6 million range.
Mhm.
And but yeah, what do we and St. Louis won the cup. Basically, the whole team's made up of those guys. But what do we want to do? We want to go further into that strategy and trade away our middle guy, and it's like, oh, we'll get a new high guy or low.
Then we
guy, throw
complain
him in.
about having Wade Simmons at the bottom of the lineup.
Yeah.
All right,
exactly.
let's move on here. In the C tier, so this is now like you're not quite meeting expectations, a little bit low, but you're still all right. I'm gonna do the first two names first, and then I'll do the third name because that one's spicy. The first two names I have in the C tier are the giraffe Pierre Engvall and the kind of captain Morgan Riley. Engvall and Riley in the C tier. Engvall has been to me disappointing, but he's kind of turned it around as of late. I had him in the D tier with Kerfoot, but I bumped him up due to recent production. You guys all heard me go on about Morgan Riley and how he doesn't do anything anymore, and he's been injured for a lot of the season. But same with Engvall, he's kind of turned it around the last week, I guess, of the season before we hit All Star break. So I gave them C tier. What do you think?
Riley's probably in the D tier and then got a goal the other night. So you're like, all right, bump him up a tier. Don't have to listen to Ryan complain about how he doesn't score anymore.
He set up a few nice assists as well. Like he's generating. If he's generating offense, that's what you expect from the guy. I don't
Yeah.
expect him to be Mr. Defense out there. That's why he plays with TJ Brody. He's Mr. Defense. I expect Riley to be making plays. I hadn't seen him make a single play before this past
All
week
I
all
know
season.
is that I was telling you guys that like I expect him to generate offense, and you were saying, Tim, I only stare at the goal column and I see a 0, so he's a bum. Just want to say,
In the
admit it.
words of Steven, there's trailers, and then there's the line pushers or whatever you call the other thing.
A
And
truck. The thing
truck,
in
there
front
you
of the
go.
trailer. What do you mean? What are you talking?
All I know is that Riley, I didn't see him making plays. I didn't see him doing things he did in seasons past. Even on the power play, he didn't seem as effective.
That's
Just-
fine. I'll take that as
just
an
seemed to
apology.
I don't know. I think C tier is pretty fair for Morgan Riley at this point.
Yeah, I like. I think. Yeah, no, I think that's okay. I might bump him up to. I don't want to say like a B.
Yeah,
tier.
he's not B.
B?
He's not
no,
a B.
I don't think so.
I think
No,
C
I
is
need
apt.
some of these like pluses and minuses to like get him up there. Like I'd give Riley a C plus. Give him like a little bit of a leeway just because injuries are hard to come back from. Like
Yeah.
he was a little hard. Get
Not
back
that he
up to
started the
speed.
season strong though before his injury.
Some
Not
of
that any of the Leafs did though.
well, what I was gonna say, our most recent viewing of Morgan Riley was in this Boston game, where Boston had just a like killer in a good way, forecheck, right? And they were really making life hard on Morgan Riley getting the puck out of his zone. But I really felt like our forwards weren't helping him out very much and like getting themselves open and being there for a quick pass. So maybe Morgan Riley still needs a little bit of help, but I think he's a C. I do want to talk about Pierre Engvall. Why is he not a D? Why? Why is he not a D? What's he doing besides? I think he has like. Does he have 10 goals on the
That
season?
third line's been pretty good the last month even, I'd say. Kerfoot's on it. Who's it? Engvall, Camp, and who's the last player on that line?
Like a
Kerfoot
revolving door.
usually.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Albert?
But like that line's kind of found its groove, and I think he started the season completely useless. Him and Kerfoot both. But I think that third line has kind of found a groove in the last month. So I wouldn't like D, I'd say is you've just done nothing all season. That's just like what are you
He
out
put
there
Nick
doing?
Robertson in D.
How many?
Exactly. What is he? He's a one game, Tim. Let it go. Engvall, I think, started the season that way, and the last month he's turned around.
How many goals does David Kampf have on the season?
Camp has four goals.
Okay. It's just
Engvall
that,
has
like
10.
what I don't like is that you're throwing around a C for a guy, and I'm assuming David Kamp's going to be a little higher up, but it's just like guys who we still are going to look at that line and say like, who's going to score on that line, right? Who's going to score on that line? Certainly not
Yep.
Kerfoot. He's a D. It might be Kampf, but probably not, right? He's the
No.
center, the defensive center. That's not what he's there to do. So
Mhm.
what Pierre Engvall is there to do is generate the offense, bring the puck into the zone, make some plays. I don't see that. I'm pretty amazed that he's even up to 10 goals so far this season. I don't mean to sound like a hater, but I think he shouldn't. I think he's a D.
He's like the fastest player on our team. He can go end. He went end to end. It was in Boston, I think, the last time we played them before this most recent time. Like he can do this little spurts. He can get into the offensive zone. He's a valuable penalty killer. I'm not listen. I'm saying he's a C. I'm not trying to defend the guy and say he's their best player or anything. But I think he's earned more than a D at this point.
We
He
all
does
view these grades differently from our personal experience. Again, for me, if I got a C, this was amazing. We're going out for dinner. Okay, we're going out for dinner.
I think C is the right spot for him. Like I would say C is below expectations, but not like we should be looking at trading him for someone else.
I mean, if
Uh,
anything, I'd say you could put him at D because he's making like 2.25. Like I don't think he's earning that 2.25 at this point, but I still think C's the right one. All right, let's move on here.
Do you
'Cause
have
I
one
think
more C or no?
I do have one more C, and I think you guys are gonna want to sit on this one a little bit. Matthew Murray, C. That's what I'm giving him. At first, I had him at an A, and then I dropped him to a B, and I finally arrived at a C for a few reasons. The chief one being he cannot stay healthy. And this was the big risk. This is why we all looked at it and said, this is why Samsonov is here, to be honest, because we could not rely on Matt Murray, who had an injury plague season all the last like 4 years or however long he's been bad for. And we bring him in, he looks bad, and then he gets injured in game like 2 or whatever it was. He's out for like a month. Samsonov's looking great. He comes back. He's looking great. He's looking okay. His last like 2 weeks has been quite bad, and now he's injured again. And it's just like I'm starting to think this can't be the guy. There's no way that we can rely on Matt Murray to be the guy in the playoffs, to be the guy when it counts, because I don't even know if he's going to be ready to play for us when it counts. And if he is ready to play, is he going to be good Matt Murray or the Matt Murray we saw the last 4 starts? Because there's a reason Samsonov has played all the games, and despite what Maple Leafs say, I don't think it's exclusively this injury or phantom injury that Matt Murray's kind of been dealing with. If Matt Murray was injured, he wouldn't be sitting on the bench. It would have been Shalgren or Wall sitting on the bench all those games. Matt Murray sat on the bench for like 2 weeks and watched Samsonov play because Samsonov's been a better goaltender. So I give him a C.
I don't know. I think that's being a little harsh. You seem to be like both Robertson lower and Murray lower because of their health, not totally out of their control. But I see C as being below average, and like I think what Matt Murray's coming to do has been what we'd expect. I put him. I think he's closer at B. Like I don't think it's reasonable to expect Matt Murray to become an Iron Man after all of his career. Like he's come in, he's played 20 games. It's not like he's a Peter Mrazek out there. Sorry, 19 games. Won 11 of them, has a 9-11 save percentage. Like these are good stats. Maybe for he overpaid? 4.6 million is like getting up there. But I think like Matt Murray, it's a little bit of recency bias where he's just like not looked good at all in a couple games. But overall, I think B is a fair grade for Murray.
But like, if you're gonna judge Kerfoot and Engvall on their salary cap hit, like Murray's like our 4th highest player on the team. Like he makes like 4 or something or 3 something. Actually, I can't remember what it is after the retention that auto
4.7.
Right, 4.7 million. So he should be as impactful as like a TJ Brody out there. And he's our number 2 goalie. He's basically our backup goalie at this point. You say that Matt Murray has deserved a B or an A grade for being our backup goaltender here?
Hey, I've seen backup goaltenders lose us way more games than Matt Murray has lost us. I think a B.
Well, I don't know that we can hate on Matt Murray and some of these other players for like what their contract is. I suppose it's somewhat their responsibility, but like that's on Kyle Dubas. I feel like we should be grading them on what their expectations were for the season and where they're at now, not like.
But you can't grade you can't grade Nick Robertson and Austin Matthews on the same curve when they're getting paid 13 times more one over the other. Like you have to weight the salary cap in it because that's what they're worth to the team. It's Matt Murray providing 4.7 million worth to the team. Well, not even close compared to Samsonov's 800,000. It's just like wildly different.
Samsonov's 1.8.
Whatever it is.
But
yeah, I do feel a little bit though like a C is a little rough for him. The injury thing is interesting because he was going to play that game. I can't even remember which one it was. It's been so long. And he kind of takes a puck to like the neck in the pregame skate, and then he heads to the bench, and that was kind of the end of it. And what I thought was kind of weird is, like you said, Rye, he was on the bench, right? He didn't go to the dressing room. I've heard like some rumors that it was maybe would have been like an e-bug situation, but it just doesn't make sense of why he was still on the bench. And just part of me wonders if like, aren't you a competitor, right? Don't you want to be the guy, the starting goalie, the guy that you've been most of the places that you were at? Although he's lost a handful of starting jobs before. That like, don't you want to take your net back?
Guys, we roasted Jack Campbell over and over again for playing while he's injured because he's a competitor, and now Matt Murray is like actually like, oh, I'm not feeling great, and then now you're roasting him for that. Like, come on.
But he's sitting on the bench, like a stinger to the neck.
It's
and the-
weird
yeah,
he's
so
on the
it's like,
bench.
go to the-
That's a weird
In a
thing.
game-
like if you're
in a-
injured, don't be on the bench.
in the
he
game, like
gonna
I can't
do?
think of like these guys.
Go up
They'll
to the
take a
platinum
puck to the
section?
neck or something. They're like, oh my gosh, this kills, but then they're back. They get right back to it. So, a sticky situation with him. Rye's right, where I don't trust a single thing the Maple Leafs are saying about his injury situation
No.
whatsoever. That's a team, an organization full of goaltending liars.
It's just
But
like he's
he-
only useful if he's on the ice. If he's injured and he can't play, then I'm not going to give him a B grade. Like he's only as good as his health is.
Well, he's played 20 games like to date. Samson's played 25, Matt Murray's played 19, and Shalgren's played 10. So like Murray and Samson have more or less split the games so far. Is that not the expectation going into the season? And like both, like I imagine we'll get to Samsonov with a higher grade, but like I think Murray is like when I remember when Matt Murray came in, we were like so worried about it that we paid $4.6 million for a horrible goalie who couldn't stay healthy.
Yep.
And what we got was a good goalie
Who couldn't stay healthy.
who couldn't stay healthy.
Right. So he's gone from an F all the way up to a C. That's where I'm at.
Nah, you can't like he's good. When he's in there, it's like he gives us a chance to win more often than not.
he's stolen us a handful of games this year.
He's 11-5-2.
He's stolen a handful
That's
of
a good
games.
record.
I think a C is too rough, Rye.
I would say he's closer to a B than a D. So if anything, a C plus. But
I'm injured right now. We'll talk about it later.
All right,
All right.
they're getting to the higher grades.
all right, let's move into B tier. We have let's start with just the forwards here. We have Kampf, Zach Austin Reese, or as Tim calls him, Czar,
I know that.
and Austin Matthews, the big cactus, Big Bappy himself. Matthews, Kampf, and Austin Reese in the B tier. What do you got?
Czar isn't a B.
What?
Zach Austin Reese came into this season on a PTO, and now he's played. How many games has he played for?
Yeah,
us?
but the guy is completely invisible half the games that he plays.
He's played almost every game for us. He's played 49 games here.
I was reading an
No, so he-
article on The Athletic about how him and Austin Matthews have like a joke about how he needs to get his 6 hits a night so he can kind of feel like he's involved in the game. Meaning, like, we're seeing that he's not doing anything and he's leaving the game like, man, did I even touch the puck? I dare you to look at his stick at the end of the game. Does he even have any puck marks on that thing? A B?
I think Ryan just looked at the games played in the season and made up his report cards based on
A
that.
B?
All I know is that we have had a rotating door of fourth liners that
And they've
all
all
of them
been
have
bad.
been useless except for Zach Austin Reese. There's been, yes, I agree. He's not like your difference maker out there, but he's never the reason you lose. He's not out there like Wayne Simmons. You're just like, this guy's completely useless. out there. I can't, but you can look at him and tell him, it's like, what are you doing making that decision? What do you, he's always good defensively. I don't think he's
I
put
don't
up too many
see-
numbers.
I don't see how you put Wayne Simmons in F and Czar in a B. Like, yes, Simmons is worse, but like, Czar isn't like. I say
Maybe I'm
he-
weighting it with what my expectations were for the season, and I saw Zach Austin Reese coming in on a PTO, and I'm just like, man, it would be nice if this guy could play a game or something. Like everything he does is gravy, and the fact that he's been in there every single night, and I have no beef with him at all at the end of the season, that he
all we
hasn't
do
done
is
anything.
complain about the fourth line. How can you say we have no beef?
I don't think he's the problem on the fourth line. I think it's his partners down there.
Oh, I don't know.
Who are
I
the
don't
other
know
guys?
about this
Austin
one.
Matthews?
This is your fourth liner. Like,
He's-
what do you want from the guy?
No, he's got a couple. He's got a he's got a handful of goals this season. He does get
He's
the hits, and
scrappy. He's what
he-
you want in the playoffs.
no, but to me, if you've got a guy and he's a B, I don't know. Maybe that's the difference in the, I guess, the grading philosophy, right? But if he's a B,
B
he should
isn't
be
like you're a
you should
game breaker
scratch
out there. B is average. B is an average grade.
not for me.
Not for Steven. All right, the other one's Camp. What do you got on Camp? Camp's a B. I thought he's been fine. I don't think he's he's been kind of what he was last year. He's been, if anything, I think maybe a little bit worse than last year. But I think he's fine out there.
Last year, our expectation was like 1 goal, so the fact
Yeah.
he got 5.
Well, I
was,
don't
like,
care so much
blowing
about the
out.
goals. It's more the defense stuff. And I seem to remember last year noticing him making these amazing, just like being a difference maker out there. I don't really notice him as much this year, I don't think. But he's still doing his thing. You still trust him with every shift he's out there. So I give him a B.
Well, his line
Yeah,
mates
I
are
think
worse
B's
this year than
fine.
last year. Last year he was playing with
That's
Ilya
true. That's a good
Mikheyev
point.
and I don't know, whoever, Kerfoot but he had a
Hasek.
20, 25, 21 goal man on his wing. And it shows. Back to Pierre Engvall, by the way. How about almost tying up the game against Boston and Pierre Engvall, like alone in front of the net, just bats it off of Olmark's pad. Send him
Yeah,
down
that
a
was
tier.
rough.
David, as much as I thought the Pontus Holmberg thing was exciting and I was pumped to, have him up on the second line, it should have been David Camp. And I still think you guys are being a little
The guy
silly
has 4
with
goals.
this
So you're putting him on the
stress.
second line?
Yeah, because he plays with dog water wingers. Dog water wingers. That guy, he's doing his job out there. And if you give him the better wingers, the line will be better. And I think they should have thrown him right up there. William Nylander, Kalle Yarncrook, a bunch of Europeans out there doing what Europeans
I don't
do.
know.
Having
I think Camp
tea.
would be just as good on the second line as he would on the third line or the fourth line. Like, might as well put him down there lower because I don't think he's going to get any better the higher up you put him.
Maybe.
But
He's
he's
not
a
going to
B.
turn into a goal scorer just because he's playing with Tavares and Marner or something. Like, it's still
So-
David Camp out
Are you doubting David Camp? We've done that once before in the Leafs cast, and we're still apologizing for it.
So this is a group of guys that Ryan says they have done their job exactly as expected.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I
I don't
still
know.
just you guys just gotta wait, and we will see what the Leafs do at the deadline and who they bring in, right? And if it's one of these depth forwards that we talk about, get a better winger with him. That line's gonna be better. He's a good player. He is a good
Right.
player, and put him up there on the second line when the Leafs play on Friday. Put him up there.
All right. Austin Matthews, B tier? Because I've
I would
gone
say-
from having him to A all the way down to C.
Well, it's because the first half of the season he was a C, and then the second half of the season he was an A.
I don't even know if I call him an A the second half of the season. Like, it's tough because expectations are so much a part of him. When we saw what he could do, but he's still like what, on a 40-something goal pace, and he's still very defensively responsible out there. And I don't know, B.
Yeah, I think for Austin Matthews, like, if I don't think like, oh, he wins the Hart Trophy, is that a B? No, I think if he wins the Hart Trophy, that's like the best, and that's the A tier. So the fact that he's like more than a point per game, he's still like defensively responsible, even though he's not at his peak that he was last year, where he was a difference maker like every shift. I think I think you put him as a B. However, I don't know. But I think every time a player gets injured, they get moved down a letter grade. So I guess that puts him at a C.
I can't give you a good grade if you're not playing. Like, it's not my fault.
He's not playing.
Availability is the best ability.
He's not playing, but I
That's
don't mind
Ryan.
him getting a bit of rest before the playoffs. So we'll go. All right, for
wait,
defense on the.
wait.
Oh, go ahead, Steven.
I'm
sorry.
Am
I
I
was trying to
here
move on
today?
ahead here.
I showed up to school today for report card day,
All right, what do you
and I'm
got?
just getting glossed right over. No, B's fine. He's below expectations. I mean, expectations is a man competing for the top goal scorer in the league. He's still the
Yeah.
big gun on that power play, and it looks very lost without him. But yeah, just below expectations. You look at the Athletics top 100 players, and he was in the best player in the league tier, right? And they've moved him down, so I think it's fair that we move him down as well. And that's it. And I
Earned
hope
to
he
B,
comes-
but we all know he's good enough to turn it around to an A or an F.
yeah, let's go. We need him.
All right. The defense who are B are Justin Hall, Jordy Ben, and Rasmus Sandin. All B's. Hall could go anywhere from an S to a D, so that's a tough one for Justin Hall. Recently, he's been quite effective out there, but first half of the season, he was in the Wayne Simmons category. So I don't know, but Hall, Ben, and Sandin. You have any thoughts about those three?
I love
Let's see,
Jordy Ben.
go for it.
I love Jordy Ben. I think this guy should be in there, like, I don't know, as much as possible. Certainly over Timmons. He should be the 7. Every time we need somebody new in, it's him. Um, I can't think of a bad game that he's had. I like the bite that he brings. I like that he doesn't wear the face mask, or sorry, the visor. I think that makes us seem a little bit scrappy. Um, so he rocks, and especially for some of these games where Sandin and Liljegren haven't been awesome, I wouldn't mind getting him in there. Um, so
I don't know what games that Liljegren hasn't been awesome you're talking about.
well, no, the
I-
Sandy Liljegren pair, like I don't know, maybe put him in on the left side or something, like just breaking up that pair. Um,
I think that it'll be injury that brings either Timmons or Ben in. I think it'd be interesting seeing Ben in the playoffs. Like he's exactly the kind of defenseman you want in the playoffs.
well, we'll see. The last playoff round, they didn't put. I think Liljegren ended up playing a handful of games, but Sandin didn't play.
No, he didn't. You're right.
You know, the guy's got to play at some point, right?
I mean,
he's
He'll be
small,
31
yeah.
on the Leafs. It's like playoff time though. Sandin doesn't
I
play.
think whether he plays or not very much depends on what we do at the deadline. Like I see him very much a Muzzin light, where he might have the physicality of Jake Muzzin. He certainly doesn't have like the puck moving ability of Jake Muzzin, and not that saying that was Jake Muzzin's strong point, but I think right now he's the best we've got as far as filling the Muzzin-sized hole in our defense. Speaking of Jake Muzzin, he was supposed to be reevaluated in February. I haven't heard anything on him. Like, is it at this point just assume that he's basically done?
Jake Muzzin played 4 games for us this season, so Tim's gonna give him a B. He played 4 games.
It's not the
All right.
expectation.
Yeah,
Let's
I
move
wonder.
on here. For A group, let's go through the forwards. I have Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Michael Bunting, Yarncrook, and Holmberg. That rounds up the forwards in the A. I think all of them have
at
exceeded my
A.
expectations. Yeah, Yarncrook at A. He's the only thing that's standing between me and saying we need to trade the farm and get a top 6 winger on this team because he's
Isn't that
been
what we're
effective up
saying?
there.
I thought we are saying that we like. Weren't your whole thing trade Matthew Nyes because we desperately need a top 6 winger on this team?
No, I like the
I think we have
the
like
center
4
depth.
podcasts worth of you saying
No,
that.
I like Bo Horvat at the center, or not Bo Horvat. O'Reilly at the center depth. You know that.
Bo's gone.
I think Yarncrook has done everything that we want. He started the season really slow, but he's really turned it around. I think we see now what he is. Obviously, the 4-year contract's going to be a little something down the line, but for this year, I think we could only be happy with what Yarncrook's doing here, above my expectation, definitely.
Maybe you just had too low of expectations for him then.
You were expecting him to be our top 6 winger playing with Marner and John Tavares in the season? Because I don't think
I
I
don't
was.
know.
I was expecting him to be a Kerfoot on the 3rd line, maybe a center on the 3rd line is kind of what I was expecting. The fact that he's been able to be up there, and Steven calls him a trailer, but he's putting the puck in the net more than most other people on our team.
Well, yeah, I mean that was Alex Kerfoot when he was the trailer there before. In a couple years, it might be me, the trailer on that line. I don't know. Not an A. He's a B. He's a B, and he's only a B because of that play recently, right? Where he's looking like he's having some fun out there. I mean, he's gonna be here for a while. He better start having some fun.
He's on almost a 25 goal pace, being paid $2.something million. Like that, how is that not an A? He's exactly what we need. That's where your goals are coming from, Steven. Like he has more goals than any other depth piece other than the big 4, excluding Michael Bunting, who is.
But he's not like a depth piece. He's a second line left wing, and that's been his like spot basically the entire season. I just don't think you can call him an A when his job is the number 1 thing on our trade deadline big board, right? Is who's gonna take his job, right? So you can't say like
not on my list.
Like I compare it to like when he was on the 3rd line, he was a little invisible, like a little bit like very much like Kerfoot, where I think he kind of plays to the quality of people he's playing with. And obviously, like if you need to be on that line with Marner and Tavares to like reach your potential, then like
but you could say the same thing about Bunting. Like Bunting's looked horrible when he's in the bottom half of our lineup. You put him up there on the
I would
top
say
line
the
with
same
Matthews.
thing about Bunting.
Yeah, and that's
Let's be-
great. Why are you knocking? Not everyone can do that. Nick Ritchie sucked on that top line. Michael Bunting's great on that top line. Like, it's a skill to be able to play with the best players. If Yarncrook can do that and we have him wrapped up for less than $3 million over the next 4 years, you should be celebrating. This is great.
Guy's a B. Michael Bunting. Michael Bunting, A, or is he a B? I would say like he's kind of about the same as what he was last year, which was pretty good.
Would you not say last? I would have said last year he was an S. Like, I don't think he's quite as good as he was last year.
Oh right, I forgot you added an S tier. You were gonna have an S tier without having an F tier.
Fine, you could have an A+ tier if you don't want to call it S. I don't care. There's one tier above.
I'm
the
gonna
A.
give him an A because I just love what he brings to the top line. I feel comfortable when Leafs are going up against teams like Boston, when you got Austin Matthews and, well, okay, he wasn't out there, but when you got the big line and Michael Bunting's out there keeping some of these guys in check and taking some of the attention away from our stars. And he's playing well. Give him an A. I'm happy for him.
All right, maybe it's just something like we need a little more separation. Like I think John Tavares had a great season so far. So
Yeah.
saying he exceeds his expectations the same way as like Callie Yarncrook, I'd say like there's a discrepancy there.
Well, sure, there's a discrepancy. Discrepancy is about $10 million in payroll, Tim.
Pontus Holmberg
9.
in the A tier. I like it. I like it. This guy,
Wait, did you say Holmberg?
Yeah,
That
he's
last
in
name?
the A tier. Yeah.
Okay.
Pontus Holmberg, was a 2018 6th round pick who really, when you read oh gosh, what's the guy's name on The Athletic who he does the prospect pool rankings? Holmberg wasn't even in like the top 5 of Leafs prospects. And then he just plays well. I don't know. He really hasn't looked out of place aside from being on the second line center position. A little too rich for him, but yeah, that's totally an A. I mean, like it's kind of refreshing to see like a recent guy that we just drafted, right? That's worked his way up and taken a job, right? I'm sure that's
just feels like found money is what it is. Like, it feels like what Michael Bunting was last year. Where it's like, holy cow, this guy's an NHL player, wasn't even on my radar. Like, it's very nice.
He scored some nice goals this year too. Yeah, Pontus Holmberg.
I'll accept it.
Pontus Holmberg is better than Alex Kerfoot.
He's been better.
It's just
wrong.
Crazy. It's
Do you
just
guys want to fight me on
stuff
Marner and Tavares, or they're good in A tier? Talk a lot about these guys.
Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner could probably even be higher than that. It's hard to say though, because that contract, he always comes back to that contract.
I think A is fair. If you're doing it, like, you got to be 100-point plus player to be in any tier above what he's in.
I think he should be in an S tier as well. I think Mitch Marner, the best line on the Maple Leafs consistently has been the line that he's on, I think, this season.
Sure.
And he broke the record. I know Ryan doesn't care about it, but he broke the record for most games with the point for the Leafs since 1990, whatever the record is. And he was at the All-Star game, and Tim said he got 6 assists. So nobody else on the Leafs.
It's hard to argue against it because he's been so good. To me, it's just like what he's doing right now is exactly what I would expect him to do. And if he wasn't doing what he's doing, then I'd start getting angry. So I don't know if I call him an S tier when he's just like.
The only thing I say keeping him from the S tier is who the other players are that are in the S tier, and I say like those players like wowed this season. I'm not as wowed as Mitch Marner. I'm just like, man, Mitch is great.
It's nice having him on the team. He's an all-star.
The S tier should be the wow tier, the ones that like blow you out of the water.
John Tavares, though,
just
good job. That's it. Good. Keep moving, buddy.
He's been pleasant surprise this year. Timmins, Brody, and Samsonov also in the A tier.
Samus smiles.
Timmins, Brody, Samsonov. I think A is probably fine. I think his play has been like S. Like, has he lost at home yet? I can never.
Yeah, he did.
He did
lost a couple. Well, he also lost against Boston the other day.
Right. Yes, you're right. But I think like his record stands for itself as far as like this guy that's $1.8 million. Like he was blowing through those expectations, but starting to cool off after the season. Hasn't been fully healthy. So I think A is good. Definitely above our expectations, but not like stealing the season.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine too. Some of this Sammy Smiles stuff though has always been so bittersweet because we just know that if he has a good season, he won't be here next
I don't-
year, and if he has a bad season, he won't be here next year. You know?
You do wonder what that contract. I was thinking about that the other day. What is his next contract going to look like?
Yeah, he's an
Do we
RFA.
move Murray
so
and sign Samsonov big? Like I don't know.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
yeah.
interesting, but that's another pod. All right, the S tier: William Nylander, Mark Giordano, Timothy Liljegren. S tier. Tell me I'm wrong. Because those players are special. They are all have it like. To me, it's especially Giordano. It's unbelievable that we traded 2 second-round picks for this guy. We signed him for 2 years at pennies on the dollar. And he, especially in that time when we had no defensemen on our team, they were all injured. And Gio just carried our team as our best defenseman. He's like 40 years old. It's unbelievable to me.
And I think the same way. It's like every defenseman you pair him with looks great.
Yes.
Like that pairing is just like instantly our best. So I would
He's
say
never had a
definitely-
bad game.
And
yeah,
he's blocking
definitely up there.
shots. He's
Yeah.
out there blocking shots. Yeah, totally. Absolutely, totally. And I mean, in the preseason too, you remember like us talking about like, are they going to play him every single night? Like he's 38. Like he doesn't care. This guy's a gamer. He doesn't care. Yeah, he rules. S tier, absolutely. Timothy Liljegren, sure. I mean, like
Well,
he,
Go ahead,
I
Steve.
would say he might be an A tier. Like he hasn't separate. I mean, it's hard because like he's also played. I think has he played the most of Giordano?
Yeah, well, I look at Liljegren and I say this guy's proven himself to be a top 4 right-handed defenseman, which is what we just so desperately needed
Yeah.
for half a decade now. Like it's and from him 2 years ago, which was like, man, this guy's probably not going to make the Leafs this year. Now all of a sudden, this is what he is, and he does it consistently every night. I there's like a gap between him and Sandy now, and he's that contract 2 years we have him for at dirt cheap. It's real nice. I think Liljegren's been a gem. And he can stay healthy, Tim.
And he can stay healthy. Well, no, didn't he miss some games? I think he missed some games.
who's the, and then William Nylander.
In a class all his own in the forwards. Like if you told me that William Nylander is outscoring Austin Matthews,
That sounds
And
like
like
a
goals,
Timmy's
31
terrible
assists.
bag of prop bets from earlier in the season that we're all going to get wrong.
yeah, any doubting of Nylander is going to come back to bite us. All-star snub.
Yeah, that's a joke.
No respect.
That's a big part of why I don't really get into the All-Star game too. That it's just like not the actual All-Stars. It's just like a NHL showcase.
We watch the All Stars like 3 times a week when we watch the Leafs play. Heyo.
Yeah,
All
it
right.
should matter.
To end us off, I gave Keith and Dubas a grade. I gave Keith a grade of an A. I thought that he started the season questionable. There's been a few other moves that have been questionable, like putting Simmons in for when he does.
Every time Simmons is in, his grade goes down a lot.
Yeah, but you know what? It's the same thing with Gio. Like, we went so much of the season with just 0 defensemen, and he got the team to just buy into this full team defense. The forwards all were in. He turned our, pile of scraps defense into this elite team, and we're third place in the league after going through that. And Murray and Samson, I don't know. I give Keith an A. What do you think?
I think it's pretty good. And the power play is also like it's been holding up. Like where are the Leafs? The Leafs are.
I like it
7th
that
in
he's
power
trying
play
that new
percentage.
stuff with like the 5 forwards, no D. Like I
Yeah.
like trying that stuff.
Where are the Leafs?
Steven, you were pretty upset at Keith at one point of the season. You okay with an A?
No, I'd give him a B. I'd give him a B.
That's-
He's not even the man in charge of the power play, most likely, right? Don't they get some assistant captain in? for
Well,
that?
Keith and the coaching staff.
I'll give him a B. I don't see all the. That's it. I don't want to flame off on Keefe here. What'd you put Doobie at? Doobie doo.
Dubas also gave an A.
Before the
I was-
deadline.
I was kind of taking a look at some of the contracts. I was looking over the past 2 years because there's a number of contracts that he signed for last year that carried over. think like, okay, well, Simmons, that was a miss. He should have done that. Engvall, the extension, yeah, probably should have held off on that one. But then you look at like Giordano, fantastic. Liljegren, fantastic. Bunting, fantastic. Yarncrook, Holmberg, Timmins, Samsonov, Camp, Freese, Ben, Sandin. Like the list just goes on of all these great things that he's done. And this is like year after year of us saying, like, well, the team's going to get worse now. We're losing this player. We're losing this player, Kasha, Campbell. And like somehow it is every year he puts out a team that's better than the last one. So I gave him an A.
It is like a little remarkable the number of players that like will have a good year with the Leafs, leave, and then have a bad year. Except of course when they play against the Leafs, they have to get their
Yeah.
goal. But like there's not been a number of players where like Dubas hasn't signed that we regret and say like, man, wish Dubas did that deal. Except for Zach Hyman. Every time I see Zach Hyman doing well, it's like, oh man.
He is doing
Do
really
I-
well.
Yeah, I mean like we
I
knew,
think
and then
To me, Zach Hyman's the one that got away. I kind of wish we kept him now. Like he's just
As
like,
great
everything
as
that we
Michael
need on this
Bunting
team.
is-
It could have been answered by Zach Hyman.
Yeah, we would have had both. It's crazy when you look at like how much more impact a third line of Zach Hyman and a couple Hammond Eggers are versus Alex Kerfoot, Pierre Engvall, and a Hammond Egger, because the dollars would equal out to be the same, but the guy's probably going to put up like 90 points again with Edmonton this year, and was he at the All-Star game? Who knows?
He got
Probably
the nod
not.
over Draisaitl. Yeah.
Probably not. It's what a send the real All-Stars. What are you guys
All right.
doing?
That's my list. I'm all done. I gave the refs an F. You're welcome, Tim.
thank you. I was gonna go through the tier list of refs, but then they were all on the bottom.
That's another pod. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Leafs are off
Yeah.
this week. They get healthy. I don't know if the bye week actually means no practice or just no games, but I look
I think it's
forward to what
usually the players go on vacation in the bye week.
I think it's nothing.
hit the gym. What are you guys going on vacation for in the middle of the season? Give me a break.
It's going to be
Um,
interesting down the stretch here. Like Tampa's still hot in her heels. I think there's no chance we catch Boston. That ship has sailed. So Boston's winning the division, probably the President's Trophy. It's going to be a heated matchup for us in Tampa, though. We played 4 more games, so we're only 5 points ahead of them. So we're going to have to pick up our slack here. If we want to keep
We've
that
also
going.
played 4 more games than them this year.
We know exactly where we stand, do we not? At this point, like
Well, we had the 2 or 3.
we're not as good as Boston. We're just as good or better than all the other teams, right? That are, second, third in their division. And that's it, right? But we're not as good as Boston, at least not yet. So I guess it's good to know that now so that, before the deadline, right? So the Leafs can retool and gear up unless they just want to lay down and let Boston go on a cup run.
Listen, we
Well-
said it last year when we saw the path. You beat Tampa, you beat Boston, you slay all the Dragons, and then it's easy after that. What are we afraid of? Carolina and Seattle? Like, who cares after that? We're going to get them all out of the way for up front, and then we'll win the cup.
Man, I would love to beat Boston. Man, I also think back, these head and shoulders teams that kill the regular season, that just cruise. Some of the times they face the Columbus Blue Jackets in the first round of the playoffs and get swept.
Yep.
Ew.
That would be the greatest thing ever.
All right, let's wrap it up.
There you go. All right. Game back. Game. The Leafs are back on Friday. We got a doubleheader Friday and Saturday. This is the dumb thing, right? Where you're
It's
in Columbus, then you go the next night to Toronto. Just play in the same city. Okay, now you guys have me going off on the league here.
He's an angry man.
They get a C. Actually, no, they were
The
healthy
schedule
during the year. so
makers
give 'em
get a
B.
C.
Go Leafs, go!